My name's Forrest Smith, and I grew up in a small town of Cleveland, Cleveland, Oklahoma. And I currently am the public safety director for the city of Minco. And I've been contracted there. I accepted their contract back in 2023.
My name's Jeremiah Loper. I'm running for Kingfisher County Sheriff. I'm campaigning full time. I started working with Hennessy Police Department back in 2019 under Hank Weber. Before that, I was working for the Kingfisher County Sheriff's Office as a jailer. Started there in 2018, 2018. I'm married. I've got my wife Monica, two kids, Waylon, Jesse. My son's 10, my daughter is 8. They go to Kingfisher Public Schools. Also, that's where my wife works, so helps out a lot.
So my name is Jonathan Redlinger. I live in Kingfisher, Oklahoma. I have lived there since 2004 when I moved from Beaver, Oklahoma. I started there as a dispatcher jailer. Went to move on later on to work for Kingfisher Police Department in 2005, and then later on transferred to the Kingfisher County Sheriff's Office in 2013. I'm probably going to get in trouble for this, but I cannot remember the exact year that I met my wife, but she is a local. Got married. We have been married. Next month will be 17 years. We've got 2 wonderful children that we are raising in the Kingfisher community. She is a teacher for Okarche Public School. She teaches English there at the high school, where my kids also go to school there. My daughter's 13 and my son is 11.
My name is Aaron Pitts. I grew up in Hennessy. I married Ariel Karen Brock from Kingfisher. Many of you may know her. She owns a dog grooming business here in Hennessy. Together, she and I have 3 boys, Jackson, Jet, and Jonah. I began my career in Enid as a police officer, and for the last 7 years, I've worked in Hennessy. Initially, I was a patrolman, and I began working at the school as an SRO, as a school resource officer, and was shortly after was promoted to sergeant, and I am currently the chief.
To improve community relations, to me, really comes easy. And that's integrating your law enforcement officials, your deputies, your police officers, so to speak, into the community to where they're being seen, they're engaging with the community, they're stopping in and visiting businesses, they're stopping in having the local cup of coffee, maybe eating in the local diner, attending community functions, with Kingfisher County, with Hennessy and Kingfisher and the surrounding other towns. There's always something going on. Deputies should always be seen and have that presence. And it's not a presence of intimidation. It should be a presence of family, of community. And when we engage in that, the community starts feeling that love, right? And we start getting that pat on the back. And that's how we start building those relationships within the community. Transparency and accountability, when we start looking at that, those are big words. We start seeing those big words pop up. Not so much in the 90s when I started. It wasn't a thing, right? We didn't hear much about that. Transparency wasn't a thing. We start seeing the body cameras and things roll out as law enforcement continues. And then we start seeing the accountability start to pop in of holding people accountable, officers and deputies accountable for actions. Transparency can be obtained and utilized on the benefit of the sheriff's office and the deputies if they accept it. If they accept the transparency and invite people in, invite the community in on decision-making processes. They get to see what you're doing, how you're doing it, when, where, and how. The worst thing that, as humans, we don't like the not knowing. And if we don't know, we start to formulate our own conclusions. So when we start doing that, then all we're doing is creating a barrier. And then we look into the accountability side of it. If you have an officer, or if you have a deputy that may have some discipline issues or may have an incident that arises, the accountability process should not just be based on what you deem as right and wrong. We have a whole community that we get to invite in. We have resources that we get to utilize. We have pillars of the community. We have different professions that we get to go to and bring them in and start discussing accountability, even if it is just an issue with a wrong of a deputy or a decision-making process. But we always start, and it goes back to the community policing aspect of it. We start inviting these people in. You start inviting your community in to your department and let them understand that we have nothing hidden in the shadows. Like, we're an open book. Ask us and we're going to answer it, right? And if we don't have it, then we're going to find it. But accountability and transparency can make or break your department really quick. And it's very important to always maintain that relationship and don't give the perception you're hiding. We don't ever want to have the perception that we're hiding anything. And with taking in those simple attributes, you'll go a long way.
Hey, so my plan is going to need teamwork. I want to evolve our SRO program into a full-time program to where we have one deputy on as an SRO full-time. That means they're going to need to go to the sports functions. That will also help improve our community relations too. I want to try to bring back the DARE program or something similar to it. And transparency, that's kind of what I want to talk about too, is I'd like to take a page out of Polk County, Florida, Sheriff Grady Judd, put the criminals on blast. That'll also help bring a little bit of transparency to the sheriff's office. We just arrested John Doe for, soliciting, to a minor, or possession of paraphernalia, drugs, stuff like that. Basically, taking to social media, that will keep our citizens informed of whether it be a theft in Hennessy's neighborhood, or a drug-related crime in Dover, or cash-in. However, and also the accountability. So by having bi-weekly meetings, weekly meetings, monthly meetings, however, that'll also help promote officer morale. Everyone having, and each deputy having some sort of role within the department. That way, it also boosts morale, and everybody will have a sense of accomplishment being a deputy. And we'll discuss new laws, issues regarding an arrest or something that may have happened in the jail, patrol, and the responsibility. And everyone will have some sort of responsibility, and it'll also lead to having trust in the community as well.
I've always been a firm proponent of community relations. I am one of those that I believe we should be in the dirt roads. The community is out there. That's who we patrol. Obviously, we do have towns that reside within Kingfisher County, which makes up our great towns and everything, or our great county. But we have a lot of community people that oftentimes do get overlooked, and feel they get overlooked. So I'm a working deputy. I have been a working deputy for a long time. I'm a undersheriff right now, and I'm still a working undersheriff. If elected as sheriff, I continue to be a working sheriff. I have no problems with going out and work, doing the grunt work, working side by side with the guys. I have an open door policy. I've always had an open door policy. Anytime anybody has ever had any questions, whether it be on the street, coming to the office, I've always been that guy that they can come to and ask anything. If I don't know the answer, I'm going to find it for you. If I need to go up for higher resources, whether it be outside agencies for something, that's what I'm going to do. I have often heard the times, or the stuff that, as you were talking about the no transparency, but you never hear what's it about. So what transparency are they looking for? We have never had a problem with talking to people about anything, as we will continue to talk to anybody about anything that they have questions about, concerns. All we ask is that you come in and address it. It's a lot harder to address something if you don't know about a situation versus everyone talking about it and saying they don't do anything and then say there's no transparency. So come in, let's talk. I've got no problem with that. And we'll always have an open door for anybody to come in and talk.
I think the most important thing to gain trust and be transparent with the public is to be out and be seen throughout the entire community. Be out in all these communities throughout the entire county, Cashin, Loyal, Hennessy, Dover, Kingfisher, Okarche. Be everywhere. Let them know that you're approachable and being available to them to voice their concerns and complaints and addressing those as they're coming up.
It's a concern, right? And I lived it. I've lived it for 6 years in Okarche. It is a concern, and I understand that question wholeheartedly. And what I would do, what my plan is, would be to, one, re-engage the communities outside of Kingfisher, right? And re-engage and rebuild that rapport and rebuild those bridges. Once you do that, then you can start looking into the aspects of bringing in those departments with your department. I can easily go in and sit down with the leaders of those towns, their administration, their chief of police, and we can start inviting them into either a cross commission or a really strong MOU, right, which allows them to have the privilege of an increased jurisdictional base. So if I do that, one, I'm not increasing my budget and I'm not spending money. What I'm doing is showing that we're all on a team. We're all on the same team. We all got the same ideas. We have the same goals in mind. And if I can come to Hennessy and sit down here and offer them a cross commission or a really strong MOU that says if things are occurring within these boundaries and my deputy is over in Cashin, it's so much more what's the word I'm looking for? It's so much more involving to create the safety net for that particular town, whether it be Hennessy or Cashin. But if I can if there's an issue just miles outside of Hennessy and the Hennessy has officers readily available, why can't they go resolve that? Why can't they go handle that issue? And whether it be just a minor issue or a response that's needed immediately. But if we can get someone there on that location within 30 seconds, 45 seconds, a couple of minutes, as opposed to 15, then that's a no-brainer. As a leader, that's a no-brainer, right? I would rather have included all my towns to participate in that than just, no, we'll get to it when we get to it, and it's going to be 15 minutes. It's so much nicer when someone calls 911 or they call the police or they call the sheriff's office and they're explaining their problem, and the answer shouldn't be, well, I've got a deputy, but they're 15 minutes out. No, that shouldn't be the answer. It should be, let me get a hold of Hennessy. Let me get a hold of Cashin. Let me see if we can't get an officer en route to you, and we'll get a deputy en route as well. Because people want that comforting knowing that when I make the phone call, someone's showing up, right? And that's easily obtainable. It's easily obtainable. You can take, if you have 10 deputies, then you can increase your force overnight just by utilizing these other agencies and providing them the tools and the training and jumping in there as a family and making this work. There's no reason it's not working. None whatsoever.
So my goal for this particular thing, I have actually thought about this quite a lot. I would like to have 4 to 5 deputies on per shift. And having the 5 on there would help with the coverage of one of them needing to take off. And I would like to section off the county into 4 quarters. We live in a square county, so why not go ahead and separate it? And each one of those quarters, we also have a town. So therefore, we have a deputy in the northeast corner. Well, that's where Cashin's at. In the northwest corner, we got Hennessy. And then they can share with the deputy in the southwest corner. They can share Dover and Kingfisher. And then in the southeast corner, you have Okarche. So why not go ahead and have a deputy and then rotate them every day. And there are 4 days a week. There's 4 quarters. They can go to each corner 1 day a week.
So for better coverage, obviously, is budget pending. We don't have a magical money tree we can run out and just grab and pick and start getting more people to come out and start patrolling. In a perfect world, I would love to have 3 deputies per shift covering all aspects of the county and everything. Unfortunately, it doesn't work that way. But things that I do want to work on implementing and everything is when we do have multiple officers that are working together at a time. Excuse me. One working on the north side of the river and one working on the south side of the river, cutting that response times down, minimizing times where if it's something petty like a cow being out, we don't need 2 deputies going to cover a cow being out. If it's something major, obviously both deputies need to go and help something as a domestic or something or a burglary in progress. But if it's something small that one deputy can handle, you've got another deputy that's freed up that can go take calls, handle, maybe even cover the other side of the county if need be, if something's going on. We like to focus areas where higher crime is. So sometimes we may have to shift if we got more areas that are being prone to crime. We're going to shift more of that focus over there. So we're going to saturate more patrol in that area and everything. But again, in a perfect world, I would love to have as many deputies on the road as I possibly could. But again, it's all budget pending. Right now, we're 2 deputies down, and we can't even get applicants to come in, and it's just a lot of it's because of pay. Sheriff's offices don't make a lot of money. It's hard to compete with police departments who have higher budgets and everything, and usually start out making $10,000 more than we do. And so whenever you've got that going against you, it makes it really hard to go to the commissioners and say, hey, I need more money for more deputies, and we can't even get the applicants. If I could do it, I absolutely would, because I do believe in better community policing, more coverage, and faster response times.
Kingfisher County is a very large county, and having a plan in place to and strategically place officers or deputies in certain areas throughout the county is very, very important. Having good communication with the local police departments and letting them know what's going on and being there, being close for them to be their backup. The best way to do that is to split the county up into zones, rather it be 3 or 4 zones, and place a deputy there to be able to respond to all these calls in a lot shorter amount of time, and to back up other agencies if they need it.
And yeah, overcrowding in the local jail, like I said, I don't know if that's a thing or if that's an issue currently, but there are things set in place to prevent that and to help expedite that process. We know in 2023, at the end of 2023, there was a task force that was created, and they issued their a 40-page document in 2023, December of 2023. And basically it breaks down the aspects of jail overcrowding. And it says, these are the things we found. These are our suggestions of what you should do as a leader to start to minimize these problems. And as done this as long as I have, I understand the question, because what you do, one of the first things you do is you start looking more at a cite and release program, right? A cite and release program, which is what I institute in Okarche, which was real simple. If you're driving under suspension, I'm not taking you to jail. We can cite you for that and get you home or find your ride, or there's other avenues that we can utilize. There's no reason why I should lock you up, spend that time doing it, which is going to be an hour and a half just for driving under suspension. Then you're going to have to bond out on that bond, and then you're causing jail staff, right? You're creating costs there, and so we can minimize that stuff by just looking at the certain misdemeanors, and we can do a cite and release program. There's some things that you just should just not have to walk through a jail for, and they're petty things, right? They can be petty. Does it take away that we should not jail people with felonies and things of that nature? But we can definitely step back and say, how can we start curbing it? How can we start curbing these issues before it becomes a problem? Even in the court system, streamlining our court cases, streamlining our process to get someone into a courtroom. Whether we have programs that they can pretrial release programs as opposed to bonds. If I have a $10,000 bond on someone, they may have to sit. They're going to sit. But if we have a pretrial release program that works, and we have the monitoring system set in place, then we can get those people back out into the community for nonviolent offenses.
So, first off, there actually needs to be overcrowding to deal with. So right now we have a 100+ inmate facility, and we only have, I believe the last time I looked, it was 33 inmates. So there's not the issue of overcrowding. But at the old jail we did, where it was a 42 inmate population, and what we did there was, if they were just on fines and costs in there for maybe they picked up for a seatbelt warrant, talk to the judge and the DA. Let's get them out of there to where we can make room for somebody that has a more serious crime. And that would probably be the way I would attack it also, the same way. Let's get the fines and costs out of there. Let's get these misdemeanor warrants taken care of. That way we can bring in bigger fish, if you will.
On overcrowding, our facility holds 101 inmates. That's what we are slated for and coded for by the state. I can tell you right now, currently we have 30 inmates that we are housing. We are not overcrowded by no means. On some weekends, we do have some people that come and serve time on weekends. So we might at most get up to like 35. Now, that's not to say if somebody gets incarcerated over the weekend or something, they may have to stay a little bit longer. They may bail out the next day. So those numbers do fluctuate a little bit. We also house for Bureau of Indian Affairs. So some of those numbers are reflecting into that. So, and I can't tell you the exact number right now because I don't have that with me. But as far as overcrowding goes, we just don't have it. Most of it is either overcrowding or, serious crimes that we're housing for. People that are waiting to go to a trial or a prelim, or two, they're waiting for court-appointed attorneys because they can't afford bond to get out. So they're just waiting through the system to figure out what's going to happen with their court case. The way the legal system's working these days is bonds are a lot lower, fines are a lot lower, people are getting out a lot quicker. Something that I learned today is now, possession of methamphetamine within 1,000 foot of a school used to be a big deal. Now they took away that 1,000 foot of the school, so now it's just simple possession of CDS. So it seems like drugs don't even matter anymore to our justice system. So that's on lawmakers to do that kind of stuff. So our job is to, if we have to make an arrest, we make an arrest. We send everything up to the district attorney's office. He makes the final decision. If somebody bonds out, they get out as quickly as possible. And, but we keep really low numbers as of right now with the way the new legal system's going.
A lot of the overcrowding is due to drug use and mental health issues. A lot of times they go hand in hand. And I became a dare officer when I was at the school in Hennessy, and teaching those students the importance of not using drugs and the impact it does have on your life is, I hope, made a huge impact on them. And the best way to decrease people being in jail is to get them before they get there. Have outreach programs and have all these different things for these people to have other avenues they can take rather than drug use. And with the right people in place, I think we can cut down on the overcrowding simply by beating them to the punch before they decide to make that decision. We're all humans, and not everybody deserves to go to jail sometimes. Sometimes they just want some help. And with these outreach programs and being able for them to just come up and ask the deputies or myself, hey, I need help, and helping them rather than just taking them to jail.
Drugs are everywhere. There's no hiding that. That's the nature of how things are going. The uptick of fentanyl is obviously an issue. We start seeing more heroin as opposed to the methamphetamine epidemic coming through. Highway 81 is definitely a trafficked area. We all know that. We all understand that. We have agencies that are expert in those areas telling us this information. So we have to start looking at how do we start curbing that, right? How do we start enforcing that? And one, we have to look at finding the right personnel, the right deputies that we can start utilizing to target those areas, those specific issues. And we're going to gain that by training, right? The proper training, the proper education. Start looking at, start rolling out programs to assist those that have addiction issues, right? So if we start looking at addiction issues and addiction problems, and make sure our mental health avenues are readily available, then we can start slowly. We can start, chipping away at drug issues and drug problems instead of going back to the whole reactive thing. If I know there's a house and I know they have a drug issue and a drug problem within that home, then why am I sitting out here just waiting on something to occur, right? Why don't I go ahead and start working on implementing a way to assist and help, as opposed to just sitting back waiting to lock up, okay? And as law enforcement, we have that stereotype of that's what we do, right? We're going to sit back and we're going to run somebody's day. And it goes back to the whole accountability and transparency thing. But if we take a different approach to that, and we start inserting empathy in our decisions, and we start being a little bit more characterization of the activities that we're conducting, then we can start working on that drug issue, that drug problem. Our marijuana grows don't help with a lot of that, right? We see the influx of that's happened in the last couple of years. And the illegal grows, obviously, have to be shut down and dealt with, and OBN's in a very, very proactive approach to that. But as we know here in Kingfisher County, those create problems, right? I mean, they create major problems, which we've seen here last year. So if we're out and about, like I said earlier on, if we're out being seen, if we're being proactive with these things and our decision-making process and with our department and with our deputies, we can start to chip away at that. We can start curving that. We can start seeing those things. The community will start trusting, and they'll start telling. And if they don't trust us, they're not going to tell us. So that's where we start. That's how we start chipping away at this drug issue.
First, it needs to be tackled head first. I would like to implement a task force that would entail dealing with the drugs, have a deputy to deal with the sex offenders on there as well, and the theft within the county. Because I believe that there's not really very many bad people in this county, but the drugs are what make people bad. That's what makes them want to go out and steal something. Well, Farmer Brown's missing his tractor. Well, let's check out the drug dealers first. I'm sorry, the people with substance abuse. So basically, I would use hand-picked deputies that I'll send to training to further their education as well in drugs. And second, focus on the communities that will be willing to come forward with information, because really people don't want to be labeled a snitch, but it could be saving somebody's life one day, whether it be your own child's, whether it be yours or your neighbor's. Third, help find support programs, targeting specific drugs and rehab, because like I said before, it's not the bad people, it's that the drugs make people bad. So if we can help take care of the drugs and the people bringing them in, as far as using highway interdiction, where I was also trained in through OBN, and you'll be surprised the amount of people that are the type of people that bring it in. I've seen where grandma's bringing in loads of cocaine, and it's just not. It's the person you least expect.
We still tackle drug crimes as much as we possibly can. Right now, everything's misdemeanors. It's not the old days where things were felony charges and they would go on. As I said in a previous comment, Back whenever you were caught with any CDS, being like methamphetamine, heroin, anything like that, within 1,000 foot of a school, it used to be a felony. Now it's simple possession, which is just a misdemeanor. Do I agree with that? I do not. But the way the laws are wrote now, that's what we have to go by, and that's what we will enforce and stick by. But as long as there are still drugs in our counties, in our communities, we will still continue to attack it. We're currently working investigations. We're still going to be working investigations into those things. Drugs are always a bad thing. We can only do so much with it at so much at a time. But we try to tackle everything that we can. I mean, anything from a traffic stop to people that are selling, anything like that. It is a bad pandemic that needs to be addressed more.
The best way to deal with drug-related crimes is cut the head off the snake. Find out where these drugs are coming from. Work with the other agencies in the state, OBN, all these other places that they have a little more resources than we may have to be able to deal with these issues, and find the people that are dealing with these drugs and supplying them and dealing with that issue. Once you deal with that, you'll notice the drug-related problems in the county go down a lot. And just the people that are regular users of drugs, I come back to the outreach programs and help find these people help. That's all they want, is some help. And sometimes us taking 5 seconds out of our day talking to somebody could prevent that person from using drugs.
My decision to run for the sheriff began years ago. It starts to manifest itself just through my observations and my perceptions, and listening to the people, listening to the communities. And I knew if I was experiencing certain things, that I knew other people were too. And so that was the primary drive of, I can fix that. I know I can fix that. If I'm given the opportunity, it'll be an eye-opener to a lot of people. I want to show the community a different aspect of law enforcement than what they've seen either here or somewhere else. The time of we're in charge and it's what we say goes, and and talking down to people, that stuff went away a long time ago. And there are agencies that still believe in that tactic, and that's the biggest change. We have to go in and reboot that thought process and let people realize, no, that's not policing. That's not law enforcement. It's understanding. It's going to someone's house and understanding what their problem is and helping them resolve that problem, not belittling them, not degrading them, not creating an environment to where someone doesn't want to call you. Because if we're in that aspect of our career in law enforcement atmosphere, then we failed. We have failed. And when I go out to these other communities and I hear stories and I listen to these things, we're failing now, and we've been failing, but we've become accustomed to it. So we've become so ingrained that that's what we know as law enforcement. We've learned to accept it. And we have to break that stigma. We have to show the community that there's a better way. There's a better way to do law enforcement and to interact with the community. And with my ideas and my strengths in those areas of community policing, I know I can change the Kingfisher community for something completely better, something they've never seen before.
So, first off, I may have said it already, but I'm pro Second Amendment. I'll proudly sign with the 2A Association dealing with federal overreach, because I wouldn't want the federal government come in and try and take my guns. It's important to assist with intervention programs for dealing with individuals struggling with substance abuse. Alcoholism and mental health is a really big one. Considering that we don't have the necessary facilities to house our mental health, they always go to jail. And I don't think that's right. They gotta have, Oklahoma really needs to have a better understanding of our mental health, because I have family members that struggle with mental health issues, and it's heartbreaking seeing a loved one go to jail when that's not where they need to be. I would have a full-time deputy, probably specified to a mental health situation, where this certain deputy be in charge of our emergency orders of detention, where if somebody is threatening suicide, that's the deputy I'm calling. He's going to know it the law back and front. I'll strongly encourage my deputies to be proactive in the community and with crime prevention. If we can stop one item from being stolen, we've done our job. If we can stop one child from getting a needle, a syringe, we've done our job. And we have done our job, and it means we've done our job, and we'll continue to fight for the children until our fingers are wore to the bone. Our future lies with them, so let's try to protect them.
So my final thoughts would be, one, I'm happy to be residing in Kingfisher County, and I'm happy that I've been part of the law enforcement community here for almost 20 years now. I plan on living here. I love this community, not just Kingfisher where I live, all these small communities. It's everybody. Law enforcement can't be everywhere, but a neighbor might see something that can help us out. So everybody plays a vital role in everything that we do. I want to work on more community policing. Yes, there needs to be more deputies out on dirt roads and stuff like that when it allows. Sometimes we have deputies that get tied up doing other things, and we get people telling us, well, I never see a deputy. I can get where they're coming from on that, but sometimes deputies do drive by, and it may be late at night, and they may not see them. They could be off at work, and they may not see them. We do have 906 square miles, and sometimes for one deputy to be covering that, chances are you may not see that one deputy. But I am thankful for the group of men and women that I do work with. I trust in them. I want to work on continued training with them, make them a stronger department, make us a stronger community. And when I say community, I'm talking about a Kingfisher County community, not just singling out any of these communities. I will be a working sheriff. I will be a guy that is going out, working with our guys as I am as an undersheriff right now. I've got no problem going out and getting dirty. I've got no problem staying out late, working holidays, even if that means missing birthdays and Christmases with family. They're used to it. It's what they've known their entire lives. My commitment is to the citizens of Kingfisher County, and that's where I plan on keeping it and making everything work out for them.
When I'm elected sheriff, I believe it's very important that an audit's done, and it would be irresponsible not to. Anytime somebody buys a business from somebody else or takes somebody else's job or you become a CEO, you want to know what you have. And knowing what you have, it lets the taxpayers of this county also know what you have. It's also very important to me to be out and be seen and be out working with the other deputies and letting people know I'm just one of them. And it's very, very important for me to have deputies that work for me that are compassionate and show they care and being approachable and let people know, like, we're human. We have feelings just like anybody else, and sometimes as law enforcement officers we're very stern, but there's times to be stern, but there's also times where compassion is needed too. And knowing that not everybody needs to go to jail sometimes. And sometimes they just need some guidance. And there's nothing wrong with giving them guidance. And sometimes it does lead to jail, but that was a choice they made. And sometimes we have to hold them accountable for their actions. But you can be compassionate while taking them to jail too.